I'm Ellis Genge and you're listening to Bears Beyond the Gate podcast.
And he's going to score Bristol's third try.
What a
But
try.
what great play
Fantastic.
by Augustine Pichot.
And Bristol have made a bit of history, winning the European Challenge Cup for the first time ever.
And Bristol have won. They won the local derby.
You're listening to Bears Beyond the Gate, a Bristol rugby podcast made by fans for fans. With 2.5 season card holders at Ashton Gate who love the club, the game and all things Bears. I'm Pete and I'm joined by Lee and Miles, live at the Bristol Beer Factory Taproom for a cheeky craft ale and a bit of rugby banter. So boys, I've had a bit of a tired day today. I've been cricket coaching for the last Sunday. I was actually out last night for a few beers celebrating the victory. So I just thought, let's not bother. We don't need an introduction. Everyone knows what happened on Saturday. It was a record-breaking victory. We won the Rifles Cup and we put 50 points on Gloucester. So, that's all that needs to be said to start with.
That's a good start though, isn't it?
It is a good start. And actually, do you know what? Sometimes reading from a script, it doesn't quite sound natural.
And also, we should say, Miles went to his work to do last night.
I had a bit of a late night, I'm a bit tired today. In fact, we didn't hang around much after the game, did we, Pete? Was the Rifles Cup...
Well,
was it there?
Well,
was the cup presented? Oh, I felt a
No,
bit bad, really.
It's not a presentation cup, is it? It's,
it has been in the past.
It has been in the past, isn't it?
Past, yeah.
But not anymore.
No,
Thanks for correcting me, mate.
Yeah.
You're welcome. and I hate to say it, but I've been in bed most of the day with a stinking cold that I had from Thursday morning onwards.
I'm glad you said it was a stinking cold. I was expecting something else there, Lee.
So if my voice sounds a little bit stranger than usual, then I think we're all pretty knackered this Sunday evening.
Yeah.
But we go again.
But we go again.
Absolutely.
We go again because we know it's always fine margins, this podcast, isn't it?
Absolutely.
We're never a million. Yeah, we talked about it, and we're never a million miles away. That we just got to keep going, right? But let's do what we normally do, boys. Is before we tuck in, let's have a little read of the thoughts of our listeners. So I threw out a little short summary with obviously a bullet pointed list of all the guidelines. And I've remembered what those guidelines are now. I've forgotten last week. It's be passionate, be analytical, be yourself, be honest, but don't get upset if you don't get read out. Because, to be honest, because we had such an exciting victory, I've been a little bit more generous this week. I'm reading out some people that have been read out before. And possibly one or two more. So here we go. Why not? I thought. Let's celebrate.
Absolutely.
Okay. So here's the first one. This one, interestingly enough, I read this chap out 2 weeks ago. It turns out that he is one of my mates who I work with. It's his brother-in-law, Chris Gingell, and a very knowledgeable fan. So I thought, fair play. Show a bit of favouritism, a bit of nepotism. I'm going to read out Chris again. So Chris got in touch today. He said, for once we look much more structured and organised than our opponents. We attacked with real verve and intent and seem to have rediscovered some confidence. Wobble in the second half is a worry though. We still give away far too many soft tries. Well, that might be something we pick up on later, but thanks for that, Chris. Our sometime freelance reporter Nick Howell has been in touch again. He's almost part of the pod.
He is.
Family.
He's probably contributed more than most of us in terms of insight. But anyway, Nick said games seem to have been won in the top 6 inches.
It's always one in the top 6 inches.
It is. Well, that's
that.
That's it. And Nick knows that, and that's why he needs to reaffirm that. To
Real
us.
men know that.
Yeah, we were very switched on. They didn't seem to want to be there for the first 50 minutes. Great display and some big individual performances. But here, Nick throws in a little curveball. Was that the most important win since Toulon in the European final?
Oh, good shout.
Interesting. Okay, Alistair Stephen, another friend of the pod.
Yeah.
Had him. It's good to see him back in, giving us a few opinions.
Back in X mode.
Yeah, back in X mode. So Alistair said some excellent plays, but some absolutely dire stuff. Alistair.
Oh, okay.
He's a hard taskmaster,
Sounds like it.
Alistair. Don't know what we will learn from this. Should be a kick on, but we've been here before. I think he means kicking on for the next games, doesn't he? Because I was thinking, they did kick on and get 50 points. It was pretty good going. Anyway, know you're being harsh. James Dunn was excellent. Luatua, DT, and a confident Sheedy made for a good scoreline. Gloss shouldn't have been able to score 4. Caveats it, doesn't he?
Okay.
Yeah.
We weren't going to use that word.
We
again.
weren't, but I think it's a good use of the word
Yeah.
because he did put that caveat at the end.
Yes.
We have to point out. Richard Burgess, which is at the Burge 77, I think he's been on before, got quite poetic. He said, "We were ice cold on an ice cold day. Excellent first half. Mistake to let them in at the end of the first half was frustrating. Yeah, wobble in the second when we appeared to be resting players for the Champ Cup. Never thought we would lose. Lewis Rees-Zammit is deceptively strong." Yeah, he was. No, too right. And then, this is a good one. So we've got one from Robin Hambley at Hammy79. And of course, last week we had one from Hammy Hambley.
Hammy
And
Hambley.
then I noticed that there was a bit of banter between them, in the kind of comments.
right,
And I reckon they must be brothers. And I think Robin Hambley was taking the mick out of Hammy Hambley, saying, "Oh, trying to get on the podcast, blah, blah, blah." So anyway, Robin has put this today, and then, of course, Hammy Hambley has said, "Oh, trying to get on the podcast." So I think, to be fair, it's only fair that we read out Robin.
Is it 1-1 now then?
It's going to be 1-1. This is the equaliser coming in. And to be fair, I mean, he's taken my rules to heart. He's given me bullet points. Very
good.
concise.
Good.
Yeah.
You like that as a teacher.
I like that. It's bullet pointed. If I want pros, I'll ask for pros. So here we go. Great attack in rugby. D still sloppy. We could have nilled them. Baby Rhino smashing it up. Stevie getting stuck in and making a difference. Good to see the boys annoyed that they let the Cherry and Whites get a point. A must win that was a great win.
I'd say that was a Kulusevski 93rd minute equaliser.
It was a good strike, that, wasn't it? It's a good strike from Robin. Yeah. Appreciate that. Cheers, Robin. And then, we've also got Dan Masters at Spaniel Masters. And I met Dan on Saturday. I've met him a couple of times down the tap room after the game. He's very, very positive supporter. And he has not just bullet pointed, he's used little stars to bullet point, which I think that deserves...
Christmas.
Exactly. It's a Christmas-themed, short, sharp summary. So Dan says... Discipline so much better. Randall the pocket rocket.
Yeah.
Ooh, I wonder where he got that phrase from.
That for a while.
Super Stevie Superman. Cherry jammed. Early subs could have cost us. Still conceding too many tries. Crane ?
Oh, good.
Lovely cheeky line out for that try, but finishes with a little bit of a negative.
Yeah.
Ran out of pasties by half time.
Yes.
Again.
That's poor.
That is poor.
I mean, it's poor, isn't it? And then we're going to finish off with, from Councillor Steve Smith. At Steve Smith 98, and according to
He's not the Australian.
not Steve Smith the cricketer. Oh, it could be. I mean, I'm sure we do know that people listen to it in Australia. Don't
Yeah.
I had a quick look at his profile. He is a councillor, a local councillor in Westfield on Trim and Henleys. So it's nice to get the politicians involved.
One in Australia is just a twat, isn't it?
Well, yes, let's not get into that. That's another podcast, isn't it? But anyway, Steve was unlike politicians, actually, he was very much to the point. Steve.
Wow.
And actually, interestingly enough, he did actually answer the question that I posed rather than a completely different one.
Yeah,
so
great.
fair play to Steve for that. So Steve said, Councillor Steve Smith has said, not the strongest opposition, but brilliant to see a proper whole team performance. Playing like that, we ought to be winning every week. So why aren't we?
That's excellent finish.
That's a nice little finish. So, boys, as usual, some insight from our listeners. Again, we do appreciate people doing that, and we introduced it this year, didn't we? As a bit of something a bit new. We thought
it was a newbie for us, wasn't it?
Let's get the listeners involved, and it's great to hear that, and also it helps us because it gives us a few ideas as well.
And also, I mean, the whole point of the podcast was just us being sat around having a beer, chatting about the rugby, and it just feels like when we introduce the listeners into it, we were extending that podcast family.
It's almost as if they are sitting with us.
Yes. Our introductions made by fans for fans.
Yes.
So why not?
Exactly.
It doesn't have to be just us three fans wittering on each week, does it? We love it.
No, absolutely. And on that note, boys, as well as having some posts to read out, I also, after the game, did manage to get some little sound bites from the fans.
Some post-match sort of analysis.
Yeah, I mean, we did we haven't done that for a while. I asked a few fans. So, a couple of the first two.
Some sober ones.
They're all...
Well, you must have been drunk to get them.
Well, all I would say is the first two, as you will notice when you listen to these, they're not from round these parts.
All right, okay.
It was a couple of visitors down from South Yorkshire, from Doncaster. I'd come to watch the game as neutrals. They follow Bristol Bears because they were big Will Hurrell fans back in the day, and they remember the when
the line breaks that he made.
Yeah.
Well, when he played
to the try line.
But obviously he came from Donny, and they were interested. They were a bit surprised. I think they knew he didn't play for us anymore. But anyway, so let's hear what these two boys have got to say.
So from an outsider's point of view, it was one-way traffic in the first half. Went to sleep at the start of the second half, but at the end of the day, the best team won conclusively.
Very similar to Bobby Roberts. We arrived very cold. Had a pint, got to the game. One-way traffic for 40 minutes. Second half, came out. Gloucester came back really strong. To the point where I thought they was going to overturn Bristol, but Bristol came back very strong. Ultimately, overturned Gloucester very convincingly. Game over.
Well, boys, I mean, I don't know what to say. The first one was very concise. The second one, I'm not quite sure how many pints he'd had, but it was interesting. Is it two different perspectives?
Is that guy a comedian? Because he definitely had comedic value.
He did, and I think he was playing up to the audio. I think he showed some respect. He didn't think this is some 2-bit like dodgy rubbish podcast. I think he felt that this was a serious bit of of media.
He must have been drunk.
I think he might have been. But on that note, there were a couple of other Bristol fans that I spoke to as well, and here's what they had to say.
So, obviously, amazing start, phenomenal rugby, tore them apart, and that's how we complain. It's frustrating we don't do that enough. I mean, absolutely tore them apart. But then, third quarter, Gloucester come back into it, and all the Bristol fans are thinking, this could be one of those days, actually, we throw away an enormous lead and lose, and that was the vibe in the camp. But to credit to the Bears, they came back, they got those final 2 scores, and that shows resilience. So take that into the next game, and we're going with massive momentum, and that was the most important part of the game. Rather than the massive start, it was how we finished. Massive shout, Harry Randall, Harry Thacker, as ever, incredible.
Bristol's dominant in the first half. A referee that finally worked out that our front row were on top. We never took a backward step. The crucial thing was we scored a try in the second half, so it didn't become Harlequins all over again. Come on, Bristol. The biggest minute in that game was when after we scored a try, Gloucester kicked off, Stephen Luatua caught the ball on his 22. Unlike taking it into contact and setting up a ruck, he gave a lovely pass to Harry Thacker, who went 50 yards. We scored another try, and that is what coaching is all about.
All right, lads. Well, we've got a lot of input from fans. We've almost could finish the pod now, couldn't we?
Let's go.
Because we are feeling a little bit tired. Yeah. But I think that would be doing a disservice to everyone, because I'm sure we
wouldn't want to let everyone down, would we?
We wouldn't want to let people down. So, as is the way with that. I mean, they've introduced quite a lot of themes about the game. I mean, fundamentally, as I said at the beginning. You can't knock a 50-point win, a record-breaking victory against your local West Country rivals, and also, and I've done the post article for tomorrow. I said that it was very cathartic. 5 losses on the bounce. We were saying it was a must win, and they've delivered. And I think we've got to accept that is a great. And I think going back to Nick Howell saying biggest win since Toulon. I mean, it's contentious, but it was, I think, a really, really important win. So over to you, lads. I think let's just freestyle this and see what I'll go with you firstly. I know you watched it on the telly, so you might have seen a slightly different insight, because it was quite foggy actually on Sunday.
Was it?
So there were moments where we couldn't see some stuff. So Lee, what's your general thought? Any things you want to pick up on from the game?
The biggest thing for me was we started we looked like we were we had the determination to win the game. I was surprised actually. Gloucester's start was so lacklustre, and I know that things haven't been great in their camp for since the start of the season really, but the one thing that really struck me was the the determination and the restarts.
Yeah.
We took every single restart in, and the platform, the scrum was working, the centres were amazing, and me and Miles probably have this disagreement now, but Vakatawa was immense, and the carries, and I just thought it was a game that I thought from the first 20 minutes we're going to win.
Yeah.
I did panic a little bit when they scored that try just before half time. But then we came out in the second half and we went again. And I will say about the 20 minutes that Gloucester had a good spell. I mean, you've got to appreciate this is a professional rugby team that have gone in at half time. They've had their pants pulled down and spanked. And there was no way that any professional team would come out in the second half, especially a local derby, come out in the second half and not perform and not at least go for it. And I think, I know like Genji's interview after the game was a little bit, we're talking about the defence, but I do feel that it was, Gloucester had to do something.
Although, it's interesting you say that, although actually, for once, it was us that came out in the second half.
Yes, yeah.
And that was something that I found particularly
But that was a moment of
exciting.
brilliance for Randall.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
I mean, but we've been here before, haven't we? We went in 29-7 and they had scored just before half-time, a little bit sloppy, although to be fair to Reece Zammit, he showed a lot of strength to go there. And I had that feeling. I had Don Brandt, Don Brandt scoring before half-time.
But you boys were in the crowd, weren't you, in the stadium?
Yeah.
And I had that feeling at home on my own, and the crowd was a little bit.
Oh, there was definitely a feeling. It was because we knew we'd been there before. We'd been 29-0 up, and we conceded a try, and that's only And so my thoughts were, we can't start the second half like we did in that semi. And actually, we scored 2 back to back. We had I think we'd call it would-be Miles an out of this worldie from Randall.
But Rands, absolutely. I mean, it's just amazing, wasn't it?
I mean, it's a quick tap and a chip chase and gather.
Yeah.
And that moment. Very soon after, that was 41 minutes, and then 49, I think we had a rolling maul, Batley scored, and we were 41-7 up, and it was after then that Gloucester came in. So I think you're absolutely right, Lee, is that it was almost like they didn't do it straight after half time, but they probably thought, my God, we cannot, this could be unbelievable, this could be embarrassing. So I think, but the question would be, was it really them getting back into the game, or did we, as often happens, take our foot off the pedal a little bit? Did we get a little bit sloppy? And then once they got that little sniff, they then really made it count for 20 minutes.
I don't think so. I think, obviously Reece Zammit, that was a powerful run, his first try, wasn't it? Just before half-time. I mean, unfortunately, 4 sort of Bristol players slipped off him and he powered over to get the try. But a quality operator like him, you give him the ball in any sort of space, he's going to score a majority of occasions against any teams in the Premiership. So I don't think it's, people were saying they should have been nulled. I agree. They turned up. We weren't going to null a team like Gloucester. They're too good. They've got some quality operators. Zammit out on the wing. I don't think, that was a fast, quick pass out. He wasn't going to stop that.
He was fantastic for them as well, Reece Zammit. He was absolutely flying. He was involved in everything that they were doing.
But it was funny because I was talking to TC, who still comes, sits next to the game, and we were saying we never really felt as though Reece Zammit has ever done anything
against us. No,
against us.
No, you're right.
And in that first half, up to 41st minute, he hadn't done anything, and he didn't look like doing anything. But obviously, but I think my argument was, I don't mind that he did something against us because he basically did it when it didn't really count, and he took his tries well, no doubt about it. So I mean, if there was one positive, at least. He probably comes away thinking, well, I did something at the game. So, I mean, I think you're right there. That 20 minutes was perhaps the one thing that could be debated as an area of concern. But I don't know. What do you think, Lee?
Well, the one thing I would say, watching it on the TV was fair credit to George Skivington because they interviewed him.
Yeah.
And his team were getting an absolute spanking, and he came on. He didn't have to do that.
No.
And it was just after half time, and they said, and he basically said, like, there's no point giving the boys a rocket. They know that they've not performed in the first half. But I thought full credit to him. This is a guy who's massively under pressure, and he still came out and he still had a chat to TNT, and it's a really awkward situation for him. But Gloucester as a rugby club, they're brilliant, aren't they? As much as they're our rivals, they do everything the right way, and they're a proper rugby club. So. Yeah, it was just a bad day in the office, I think, for them.
It was. Well, I don't think they actually got to the office.
Well,
not really.
They didn't get on the coach.
I don't think they even got out of bed. To be fair, I think they maybe got to the front door and then locked themselves out of the house, still in their pajamas, and then stopped. Anyway, it's not really about Gloucester. This podcast.
No, let's talk about us.
Let's go back to that first half, because that was when the glory really happened. We got a bonus point, bonus point in 31 minutes. We were utterly dominant, and we've been talking about the fact that we weren't far away, or Pat's been talking about the fact we weren't far away, that there's been fine margins, and to a certain extent he was right, but we were bemoaning the fact that's all fine, but we were 5 losses on the bounce.
Yeah.
So what was it, Miles? I mean, what was the difference, do you think? Why did we come out in that first half and essentially destroy them?
Well, I mean... Look at the crowd. So we had 16,500 very noisy supporters at some point. I mean, it was an absolutely Baltic day out there, wasn't it? We were in double gloves, double hats. Even Pat Lamb had a little beanie on, didn't he? Super impressed with that. So if you cannot turn up on your home turf with 16,500 fans, then you might as well not turn up. And I think they responded really well. You're right. There was a lot of pressure to get this game won, and won quickly in a bonus point win. And they came out on the starting blocks and absolutely smashed their way through Gloucester. Now, I don't know why Gloucester didn't turn up for 30 minutes, but you could say, well, it's not that. They were a decent side, but we were just too good. I mean, did you see, we were chatting about Verimi, did you think we'd be seeing little grubber kicks from Vakatawa?
Crazy.
I mean, just crazy.
Did we ever see it? We never saw a grubber from Semi, did we?
No, absolutely. I mean, the insights. I mean, I agree.
This is a guy who Miles thinks.
Well, okay, right, okay. So let's. All right. So
he's changed he's just flip flopped.
I'm backtracking.
But then again, it's fair enough. I mean, you can't not do anything but flip flop, because he did have a good game.
He did have a good game. He had a quality game. His runs, his powerful running, in attack was fantastic. His defence was pretty good. And to lay that one open for Malin's a little grubber kick, genius. Saw a little bit of space. So I'm going to give him a big tick this week. I think he had a big tick. I thought Verimi, but you can't single him out. The whole squad had a great game.
Let's just draw a line under this. Out of 10, what are you giving him?
I'm going to give him a 9.
That's a good shout.
I think so this week.
I actually think we'll talk about this later on, but I think we've got 4 players that could have been man of the match in this game.
Go on then.
Well, obviously Genji did get man of the match, didn't he? I thought Vakatawa was a good shout for that. I must say the centres, from the restarts, both of the centres were amazing. I thought you could give it to Randall, because Randall was dominating he was quick, that tempo was back there. Felt like he got his mojo back.
He did, yeah.
Thacker
back
in his usual position at hooker, and he was immense. I thought there was really some top quality players there. For me, though, one thing that you'd ask Miles, Pete, I actually felt that we'd done our homework on Gloucester this week, and that was the biggest thing. Watching it on TV, I know you got a different perspective, but it did look like we'd almost pre-planned what Gloucester were going to do. And it felt like they were falling right into our hands. Everything, even down to the restarts, it almost felt like we knew what they were going to do. So we were ready to, and we were prepared to attack.
Do you know what? I mean, what was very apparent was we didn't box kick out of the 22. And I think you're right. We changed it up, and we went back to the kind of Bears of old. We ran quite a lot out of the 22. But they did that beautiful wraparounds, missed pass, and it gave. You know what? I was really pleased for Van Rensburg to a certain extent that he did a lot of powerful stuff. But that first 20 minutes, he was getting the ball in a bit of space. Malin's on his. Sheedy was wrapping. Sheedy was wrapping round, and I thought fair play. That is, as you rightly say, we've done a bit of homework. I think Gloucester were thinking, oh yeah, they'll just box kick it out the 22, and we changed it up and we got a foothold because we said we need to start.
Yes.
We need to start, but in a different way.
Yeah.
And that I think that set the tempo, and that's what really, destroyed their kind of whatever confidence they had.
And what was noticeable on the TV as well is that Van Rensburg came inside a lot of times to make the carries.
Yeah.
And that was just mixing it up enough that it just felt like we'd really pre-planned this really well this week.
But another thing that I think also was quite significant in that first half was, and we mentioned this earlier, but also I think one of our listeners on the soundbite mentioned it, was that our pack was completely dominant in the first, and our scrum was all over. I mean,
Brilliant.
that poor Argentinian, he'd had enough after 20 minutes, didn't he? He'd had Sinclair all over him.
Sinclair was brilliant. We have to give him
and I
full
think we
credit.
have to give credit, because also it's great to see Randall happy, playing with tempo. It's great to see Shido wrapping around.
Yeah.
It's great to see Rensburg having space, but you get that when you're on front football.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And our forwards have delivered front football. And to be fair, now we start thinking about it, our forwards have been pretty good for a lot of the games.
Yeah.
So it was a victory for them. And I mean, I thought obviously Steve Luatua back in the back row.
Massive.
Just
He was
created.
huge,
He just
wasn't he?
makes a couple of extra yards here. He just smothers the ball. It was so obvious that we were missing him.
What I love about Luatua is that he does stuff off the ball that no one else sees. No one else sees it, and yet it's the kind of binding blocks to build in the game for us.
And ironically, for such a legend, I think it's actually he's better without that captaincy role.
Yeah,
I think he doesn't. It's just like he's here to play rugby.
Yeah.
And it's great
He's
that we've
bloody
got
good at
we've
it.
got the youngins stepping up. So we've got Fitz, because when Fitz went off,
Caulfield
Harry
came on, didn't he?
Harry took over the captaincy. There's no question of Steve taking it over, and I think it just let Steve get on with it, get on with what he does well. And I thought it was so good what he did. It was just, he complemented other players in that pack.
I think Luatua and Vui are the two players that we could both label that on. That they are both so underrated in terms of what they do on the field, that create space and create opportunities for other people, and they're both amazing. And hopefully at some point we'll see Vui back.
Well, it's good that we got at least one of them.
I mean, you were
back.
talking about mixing it up a bit. It's interesting. I watched it back again on TV this morning. But, all these tries we've scored, remarkably, which is not like Bristol, it wasn't just a normal spin it out to the wing and try our best to get round them. There was no try, was there, scored in that fashion out on the wing. And you just look at it, different tries, forwards, back, scoring, chips over, etc. So you're right. I think maybe they did do their homework and Gloucester thought, that's all Bristol
That's always
do.
been one of our problems, isn't it?
Yeah,
Getting isolated
absolutely.
wide, go backwards and forwards, and then losing possession. I mean, having said that, I'm going to come in a sec. The first 10 minutes, we did knock on about 3 balls.
We had 4 mistakes,
Four mistakes,
in the first
and
4
before we
minutes.
even scored. And I was thinking, oh God, we've been here before.
Yeah.
We're not converting any red zone pressure here. And then, of course, your man Vakatawa did the grubber, and that kind of settled us down a little bit, didn't it?
It did, yeah.
I do think Sheedy was a big part of that, because after those initial mistakes, where I was thinking, oh no, not again. But Sheedy, I thought, was brilliant. I thought he controlled the game well. I thought he did everything he needed to do, and he got us on the front foot, and his kicks were on point. I know he missed a couple of conversions, but the kicks to touch were pretty much on point. There was a couple right into the corner, and I think we've had a little dig at Callum, haven't we? Throughout the last few kind of
only ever a
episodes of
dig
the pod.
at his kind of his performance, because we want high standards.
Yes.
Never
Absolutely.
a dig at him as a person.
No, not as a person,
and that
no.
we should just say we would never want to do that to
Well, we
anybody.
never do that.
We never do that.
No.
It's not about people. It's about their performance.
It's about Bears winning.
Yeah, it's about Bears winning. So I think we should shout it from the rooftops a little bit. Yeah. But of course, he would say, because he's a pro, he'll say it's not just about me.
No,
it was about Harry, because if you get a scrum half who's on it, you get that ball a split second earlier. And Harry would say it's not just about me, it's about the pack.
And it's the beauty of
and the
teamwork,
pack will say it's people like James Dunn and it's people like Joe Batley who are doing, and Steve Luatua are doing the filthy work to secure quick ball, to look after the ball. So yeah, I mean, we could go on forever. Really, I mean, is there? Let's. We're still in a bit of roll. What else can we point out? Some glory. I want to finish with. There's something I want to talk about at the end. But what, boys? You've got another chance. What else do you want to bring up? Glorious from that Saturday. Let's do it.
Let's bring up some points. So, as you said, the biggest win over Gloucester.
Yep.
And let's have another point. Thax now is the highest point scorer for Bristol.
Did you see his interview
over
after
David
the game?
Lemmy?
Highest try
scorer.
Did you see his
try scorer?
Did you see his interview after the game?
Brilliant.
He was quite modest, wasn't he?
Because I saw that on socials. He didn't realise, and he said, "Well, to be, he said to be fair, most people have done it for me." And then I think Craig Doyle, whoever it was, or his Delalio said, "Yeah, you've beaten David Lemmy's tries." He's like, you could just see him think, "Yeah, but that's not really fair, is it?" David, I think he said he ran kind of about 1,000 more metres than I did.
The metres made must be huge for Lemmy.
But ultimately, top try scorers, top try scorer. And I have to say to Harry, thank you so much for the money. Keeps rolling in.
And actually, I mentioned this in the Post article because I said, I did. You know what I did, boys? I alluded to the fact that he had beaten David Lemmy, but I'd done it in a kind of ironic way. And I said that, to be fair, that's not a bad return on a player that was rejected by Leicester Tigers 5 years ago, is it?
Yeah.
No,
for being too small.
For being too small.
Absolutely.
So fair play. That I look at the big picture. You could almost say what a signing that was.
He has been fantastic, hasn't he?
So there you go. Miles has given us that. That's good. Anything else you want to add, Lee?
I just wanted to say, big Gabs.
Yes.
Gabs Ibatoy, I thought his defence was amazing on Saturday, and we give him plenty of credit going forward, which he fully deserves, don't get me wrong. But I think defensively, he was absolutely on point on Saturday, and I just wanted to give a good shout to. And
also, I think he had a couple of. He started really well. He had a couple of dodgy games, and then he came back strong. And I think now he looks like you kind of suggested. He's a balanced player. I mean, we know what he can do in attack, and I think he scares the opposition. Yeah. I think they are now. Opposition will be looking at him and be worried about him because he has got that element of unpredictability.
Yeah. Oh, you're not going to kick to him, are you?
There was one thing he did on Saturday. I seem to remember. It's in my mind in the second half where he holds. I mean, coaches would have kittens, and he holds the ball in one hand, and it was a kind of like a when the old. The NBL boys when they slam dunk and they'd like fake slam dunk whilst they're in the air and then slam dunk it. He was like doing that, and it is brilliant to see. And in the big picture, it might go wrong, but that's the sort of thing we want to see at the gate. We want to see some glory, and it was great. I think we just got the balance. The game plan was perfect on Saturday. I think we kicked when we needed to, and we kicked well. But I was just that first 10 minutes, 20 minutes when we were running out of defence, but we did it with precision. It wasn't high risk. It was great, and I think we've just got to say if we can somehow bottle that. And a couple of fans have said, why don't we do this? Why is this not happening?
I think we are evolving as a team.
I think we are
mixing it up. I do feel,
and I think it's nice that we've now got a little bit of a kind of shot to nothing with 2 European games. We can use that to maybe to blood a few more people, and then I think they'll be absolutely gunning for full Falcons, and then gunning for Chiefs back at the gate just before New Year.
Talking of Falcons, though, did anyone see the interview today?
Alex Codling,
it was. Alex Codling was interviewed after the game. Obviously, been spanked by Tigers, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And just saying, it's how difficult the situation is for him as a team, and and they're not kind of. They're struggling every week, and it's sad. And this is massive for the whole league, isn't it? And Falcons, we need a competitive league where every team is invested in it. And
we had a chat with a few people on Friday night that the fact that we feel like I think relegation may have just been dropped off the agenda this year because we're down to 10 teams.
No one knows, do they? I mean,
No one knows.
We don't know.
This is the state of our game. Is that we don't even know what the hell's going on. I mean, when you take a step back, the whole thing is absurd. Yeah, if we got relegation, we not got relegation.
We're not sure. But you're
we
right.
should know all that before the season starts.
And then the guy's just got a pay rise.
This is a guy though. This is a coach who's working 100 hours a week, and he's not seen his family for God knows how many months, and yet he's trying to still get those youngsters on board and be competitive, and it's so difficult. And it's wrong, isn't it?
You're right. I think we are under no illusion that Leicester were going to get the win today, do we? But to go there and be sort of 47-3 down at full time, it's such a heartening sort of interview he did. And I feel for Newcastle. We cannot lose another team, can we? Another northern team that's just sort of keeping the rugby league at bay, as it were. Yeah. But I don't know where they go.
I mean, this is a team that's won the title. Yeah, Johnny Wilkinson scoring.
Pat Lam. He's got heritage. Tom May. The likes of that. Yeah. I would say that I think rugby league's more kind of northwest than northeast. Okay. There's one thing that was raised by our fans though, and the listeners, and that was the fact that, and it was raised by Genji as well, was the fact that we still conceded 4 tries.
Yeah. Yes.
If we have got pretensions to sup from the top table, from the goblet of glory on that top table, we've got to sort this out. We have conceded way too many tries this season. I mean, we've conceded 11 in 2 games.
Yeah, right.
Saracens 7. We've conceded. Now, where do we go with this? I mean, we're not really nosy enough, are we, Lee, to know the answer? But what do you think? Is this something we can solve?
Well, I do feel that it's fair comment. I mean, we expected a Gloucester fight back in the second half, but not 4 tries.
There were some missed tackles, weren't there?
There was, and we have had some missed tackles against Sarries as well. I don't know. It is an area I think that does need to be looked at.
I mean, having said all that, I feel a bit guilty even saying, like, making it sound like a little bit criticism, because basically for every missed tackle, the amount of like the collisions that those boys go through on a cold. I mean, the respect I have for that, for what they do, it's great. But we've somehow just got to get that 80-minute defense. Is this what we're looking for now? Not the 80-minute performance, but the 80-minute defensive performance.
And that's the thing. You can't in this league. You can't just go on the basis of outscoring teams. You can't think, well, they'll score 5 tries, we'll score 6. Yeah. You have to be tight defensively in any team, in any sport, in any division, wherever. You still have to have the defence, because a good defence will then allow the forwards to kick on, and a good offence.
Yeah, I mean, our old friend and Bristol player, Ford Robinson, I mean, it's tough to sort of defend against a pick and go legally when you're right on your line. It's very tough, and he's a unit and a half, isn't he, Ford Robinson? I thought those were work tries.
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
One, as I've alluded to, one Reece Summit was just a bit poor and we didn't tackle him, but the other one was a class try on the wing. So you could argue 3 out of the 4
were legitimate tries.
I think
difficult to stop.
I think that not so much the problem was conceding the tries; it was conceding 4. That was disappointing. I think 3.
I think so.
No bonus point for them. That would have been more satisfactory. But anyway,
right.
I do feel that Sheedy's been targeted quite a lot by other teams as well. Yeah. It's like watching on the TV again. You get a different perspective, but it does feel like a lot of teams do target Sheedy, and whether that's something a conscious decision, I don't know, but it does seem to spark from that.
All right, boys. Well, I think we've done enough. We've done a good old session. That we've put in quite a big shift there on on sort of trying to glorify that Saturday, because it was good, and I think people expect us to have done that in a somewhat freestyly sort of manner. But I think people have got what they need. So you're listening to Bears Beyond the Gate. If you like what you hear, why not follow us on Twitter at Bears Beyond Gate, or Facebook Bears Beyond Gate, and of course our burgeoning and evolving relatively slowly Instagram account, which is Bears Beyond the Gate as well. Or if you feel the need, you can email us, bearsbeyondthegate@gmail.com. And as I caveat every week, we'll try and reply, but we are all working quite hard and so on. And if you do like what you hear, apparently, this is what people tell me, is if you leave reviews, that's quite good as well, particularly on Apple Podcasts. Gets us known.
Good.
Around.
Excellent.
Well, look,
Might
boys.
need some awards, maybe.
Yeah, who knows? Well, look, we've got, obviously now that's the end of a block of Premiership games. We've now got 2 European games. We've got 2 big French beasts to play. We've got Lyon coming next Saturday to the Gate, late kick-off, 8 p.m. And then we're off to Bordeaux-Begley for the away game before we get back to
our old friends, Bordeaux.
Well, who are we going to see potentially on Saturday from Lyon?
Lyon?
Who did we sell to Lyon, boys?
You're not thinking of Bordeaux and Semi?
No, Sammy didn't go to Bordeaux. He went to Lyon.
Oh, Lyon.
He went to Lyon.
Of course he did.
Oh my God. No,
sorry.
Research. Anyway, so we haven't got, because it's European, we can't do a PPP because it wouldn't work anyway, a Pete's Premiership preview. And actually, so we haven't got,
the French
wasn't up to it. I did look briefly to see if there was any sort of Lyon podcast, but there wasn't.
Could have got Remy on to slag them off.
But I think that would have gone against our suit. So we haven't really got. And we haven't got anyone to help us read it. And I don't know how much time we really should spend on this. I mean, my only comment would be, it's a shot to nothing, the next 2 games.
Oh.
What I think, is this an opportunity for Pat to bring in some players that haven't had quite as much game time and also at the same time give them some sort of big match experience? So I'm kind of thinking Jimmy Williams here. Maybe it's an opportunity for him to go 10, because we know what quality he has, but going 10 against a big French side could be a real development thing for him. I'm thinking Revuvu as well. Someone we didn't mention actually, when he came on for 10 minutes, his cameo,
lively, didn't he?
That was a cameo of all cameos. He looked like his YouTube clip.
He did.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, Ran Rensburg.
He's
and
maybe due for a bit of a rest, yeah.
Could have earned a bit of a rest. So I'm thinking that. But then I don't know, what else? Is there anything? It's hard to tell these ones because we don't really know what the plans are. But have you got any thoughts on the lineups?
Well, I would say against Lyon, I mean, obviously they're near the bottom of the French 14, aren't they?
Wow. Yeah.
But having said that, in even Bordeaux, they're only mid-table. But having said that, this is the best, or potentially it is the strongest league in Europe, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
And so, a mid-table or a bottom of the table side is still going to be massively, we've
had our issues with. When Claremont came, didn't they, and scored about 5 tries whilst we were just getting our beers.
I mean, we were hoping a French fine wine wouldn't travel well, but Claremont did, didn't they? And you just don't know what you're going to get.
Let's be honest, we didn't expect to be in this competition.
No.
We're only in it by default. We felt like at the end of last season it was a bit of an undeserved entry to the Champions Cup.
Yeah,
but obviously we're there. We've got to make the most of it. But I just think, if it's a shot to nothing in many ways, and I think we could use it to really nail down a bit of experience for maybe people like George Gloucester, get him involved a little bit more, so he's up against some gnarly French like front row and stuff like that. I don't know.
It's just,
I still think we'll play the strongest team.
Well, I think we might
at
have
home.
Yeah. We obviously took some of our key players off. Sinks and Genge at about 65 minutes, didn't they? I don't know whether you're going to start them or a few of the key players on the bench. Test Lyon, see what they bring, and if needed, just bring some muscle on late on in the game.
I mean, I think, like you said, Pete, this is a shot to nothing anyway, isn't it? We weren't expecting to be in the competition. No. So we are in the competition by default,
but Pat would expect
we'll give it a go
to get some wins.
Absolutely.
We are not there. I mean, that's part of his sort of 6-point plan. We are not there just to turn up and do nothing. We are in the Champions League Cup, and we've got to be competitive. And next weekend, we've got to try and nail this one down and beat Lyon.
And I think we will.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think we'll play Malins again. Sorry, because he hasn't had that much game time. And we do need some quality. Operators. I do think maybe the centres might get a rest, or one of them, possibly, or maybe subbed. I still think people like Gabs on the wing. I mean, we want him to get that sort of experience as well.
Yeah.
And Rich Lane as well. I mean, Rich Lane has earned the right to play at the top table and play at that high level for everything he's done.
I do think Vacatal will play.
Yeah. Well, I think
a French
of
team,
course,
and I think he'll want to. Want to prove.
I mean, I wonder. I mean, are we seeing a Fijian centre partnership? Now that could be exciting. That's something to look forward to.
Yeah.
And Pack, we'll see. I mean, we'll see. I mean, it's Steve. I would have thought if he's still fit, he'll be starting. He'll be in. Depends on Fitz. What happened to his with injury? You know, it's DT. I mean, we didn't mention DT that much, did we? But again, what a great game he had. Just in terms
of one brilliant break as well from our own 22 to theirs.
Well, actually, I meant to mention that because that try that Fitz scored, it was a fantastically worked try because Sinks actually timed a beautiful ball to DT on the crash ball, broke the line. But actually, when you watched it, and I noticed this live, and then I looked it back again, DT went one way, then he went the other, and he took out 3 tacklers and popped it to Fitz Harding. It was a beautiful bit of skill.
It was.
Right, well, we'll see what happens. You know, it's hard to speculate sometimes on this. Well, boys, I can hear it starting to rain. So we need to crack on a little bit, and we have been there. There's really only a couple of things I wanted to finish with. The first one was me and Miles went down Shaftesbury Park Friday night. It was possibly the coldest night I have ever. And do you know what? 90% of people were wearing dry robes or dry robe equivalents at Shaftesbury Park.
But we let them off, didn't we?
But we let them off. We let them off. We didn't take any pictures
cold,
because it was a sensible thing. Although I had long johns on and I had my jacket and I had a snood. I had everything. And the fun thing was, me and Miles, we found a little gap just above the seats in the main stand because we couldn't find any seats. Turned left. Who was next to us? Oh, mate, Jeff Twentyman. Big Jeff T.
Big legend.
And he'd just been on the back of his. He'd done that little Q&A with Gary Hours and Brian Tinian down in South Bristol the night before at the Sartre Club, and he said it went really well. It was really nice. We had a really nice chat with him. You know, he spoke to us most of the half. He didn't ignore us.
He's a busy man since leaving the BBC. It was so nice to see him. He's such a good bloke.
I was gutted to miss that.
That's all right. To be honest with you, mate, if you had a cold, it would have. I mean, you know. There's not much to you, mate. It would have finished you off.
Oh, it would. I mean, you would have. I mean, fair play to the both sets of players. It was blooming hot. But before we have a quick chat about it, we did ask fans, and actually we had a couple of fans who were there on Friday have given us their thoughts. So very, very quickly, I'll read them out. We've got Kate McCoy, at Katie McCoy, another friend of the pod. Mm-hmm. She's a big fan of the Bears women, as well as she's a dual season ticket holder, I think. She said, Bears women put up a strong fight, but last season's champions were ultimately too good, especially in defence. More to come from the Bears women for sure. Scoreline not a reflection of our possession. So good to see Shaftesbury Park almost but absolutely buzzing, and addition of new flags. But oh my God! And then she just put like 3 emojis of someone like freezing to death on it. And we should say, of course, this was the beginning of the Derby double-header weekend. They were playing the reigning champions, Gloucester Hartbury, and then we also had some from Reese John Hawkins, whose handle is at Beef1898. So I don't know whether that's when he was born, because he's a big old boy there, isn't he?
He's ordering miles.
Or that's just like a steak that he's had like maturing for over 150 years that he's gonna eat at some point. But anyway,
maybe it's a support.
Actually, let's have a look at his. I can't see his picture. At Beef1898, he said the women were undone by some resolute defensive work from Gloucester and were clinical when it mattered the most. The men showed champagne rugby, but need to be firm in defence. Oh no, he's added in a man's thing. I should have read this out earlier, but let's read it anyway. Because if that was a team playing with confidence, then all the hard work would have come undone. So, I mean, me and Miles were there. It was a 12-0 loss. So unfortunately, the girls got the women got bageled, or actually no, bageled only when we play a French team. They got donutted.
Yeah.
What do you think, Miles? What was your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, they were. I mean, you know, we the weekend before we obviously got schooled by Exeter, and I think Dave Ward said that we need to come back from this. We talked about the defence and attack. Gloucester Hartbury, I mean, their defence line was like a brick wall. It was very difficult for the Bristol Bears women to get through. In fact, I don't think they did, Pete, did they?
No.
They did not break that defence line once. We ultimately, it was a really cold night. We got into their red zone, butchered a few chances where we probably could have scored 1 if not 2 tries. Decision making, not taking us 3 points before half time, probably maybe cost us a point. But you can see why they were champions. They're phenomenal, and it was hard to see, really, I think, going into the second half where the ladies were going to get a try, sadly.
Okay, Miles, but yeah, I think you're right there. I mean, the Gloucester Hartbury were a quality side. They're not reigning champions for nothing. And although it's disappointing that the women didn't score, they did have plenty of possession, particularly in the second half, and they were in the red zone a lot, and they just couldn't finish it off. And I think, that's always a balance between the quality of the defence and just not being clinical enough. But there was plenty of stuff that they played better in the second half. I think they were a bit quicker. I felt as though in the first half it was just going backwards and forwards, sideways to sideways. Some kind of a bit like what we've seen with the men at their worst.
You're right, absolutely.
And then they just weren't able to kind of punch holes in their defence. And Gloucester are clearly a well-drilled side with some serious artillery in there. But second half we did move them around a bit and bit more pace. I think Kira Bevan came on at scrum half, and I thought she got the ball away a little bit quicker. I think gave Holly Aitchison a little bit more time to pull the strings. I think in the first half she was kind of rushing quite a lot, but unfortunately they weren't able to score. And I think probably now they're pretty clear about what their challenge is. If they want to get in the top 4, they've been kind of schooled physically now. Not so much schooled on Friday. I think they were schooled by Exeter. That was pretty tough. I think there's enough positives to come out of Friday to think that if they get their act together, they could well be up there. I think Dave Ward was interviewed afterwards, and he said, it's the 3rd game, not the 13th game. So we're going to take this. And I think they played better than they had against Exeter. So they'd already learned. Yeah. But I must admit, I was quite impressed with how good Hartbury were. Gloucester Hartbury. There was some serious, as I said, there was some serious They were. Do you know what they were? They were a decent outfit.
Absolutely.
Well, I was gutted to miss it, obviously, because that would have been our first outing of the season.
Yeah,
bizarrely,
it would have been, wouldn't it?
But I just wanted to ask you guys, what was the atmosphere like? Because obviously my missus lived just up the road, really, from Ding, so I'm planning to get there a lot this season. What was the atmosphere like in watching the game?
It was great. I mean, what you said already, fantastic. There were some young girls, rugby players of all the clubs around Bristol come to support the women, and the support was phenomenal. Yeah. And the players, what I love about it, come right up to the fans at the end and respond, getting signatures and photos. I really love that. I mean, it was flipping cold. We loved the bar, didn't we? There was no queue in there.
Decent. They didn't run out of pasties?
No, we didn't try. Pete moaned a little bit. He had a bit of an expensive hot dog.
I had a Jolly Hog. They had a Jolly Hog, and of course, we
know that
tasty.
Doesn't come cheap.
But I paid for that taste. I've got to say.
I mean, the stand was great. I mean, the fact that the stand was full. We were in standing room only, weren't we? To be honest with you, I thought it was really good. I think we definitely go back. There was a lot of noise up there, and that's what the women needed. It was brilliant.
Yeah, it was great. It's a good setup. It's great if they get to play at Ashton Gate as well. And I think obviously when they played at Ashton Gate, they had nearly 3,000. I think they had just over 1,000 at Dings. They can't have many more than that.
No, we couldn't get in the car park.
But we
had to building blocks, though, aren't they?
They are.
Absolutely.
No, I think it is something that. We've made a conscious effort to get behind a bit more this season because I think it's part. We're riding the wave of it's Bears, it's the Bears family.
Yeah.
Quite literally when all those babies there and stuff like that. So great stuff and good luck to the women. We're going to keep an eye on what's going on in the next few months.
I think they're on to Loughborough next, aren't they?
Loughborough Lightning. Yeah.
So let's hope for the win there.
I do feel like you boys have just said we will learn from those 2 defeats and we will improve. I genuinely think in the next couple of years Bears women are going to be top of the tree.
Yeah, no, I think so. Well, look, lads, that's pretty much it. We wanted to try and keep this down under an hour, but we wanted to go big on the victory. I think there's a couple of other things. We'll leave. We had a few things we might talk about in the future. A couple of things that were brought up with regards to home games and stuff. But I think that's for another time. That's for a New Year pod. So unless you boys have got anything else to add to what we've done, I think we'll we'll call it a day, or call it a night, we should say.
Call it a night.
The rain has started to come in, so I think it is about time to go. So all of you lot out there, thanks for listening. Keep safe, and up the Bears.